Every age, people complain that things are going bad and things are getting worse.
Okay.
And
Old man yelling at a cloud.
Yeah. It's easy for me to be relatively pessimistic. My wife calls me a gloomy catastrophist.
Okay.
I've always kind of been like that since I was a child.
But the work is so full of light.
I could see the dangers of human behaviour and activity.
Yeah. Hi, Reg.
Hi, good morning.
Thanks for joining us. I normally say welcome to Happy Mag, but we're not in Happy Mag. We are in Glebe. Tell us a bit about where we are today.
Oh, well, we're in my studio, which is obviously in an attic of the house, and I've had this studio for about 20 years. We've been in the house a bit longer than that, but it's reasonably quiet and plenty of light, as you can see.
Yeah. It's an essential ingredient for a good studio, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, the white and the light. Congrats on the show at Rogue.
Oh, thank you.
I did visit the exhibition.
Me and Glenn Smith. Not just
yourself,
my stuff.
Yeah, that's right. It was a collab.
A collaboration.
One of the things that I thought when I saw it was I'd love to know how that came about. Obviously, there was the Lino aspect. So, Gleno having his execution techniques and so forth. Can you tell us a bit about how that came about?
Well, I met Glenn about 5 or 6 years ago. I was involved in an exhibition. He'd organised just a group exhibition near my old gallery, Watters, in Darlinghurst, and I got to know Glenn. He's a musician as well, and he also does stuff for Mambo. So we have a few things in common in terms of that. And basically, it was because he does a lot of Lino Cuts as part of his sort of graphic art practice, and he suggested that I just draw on some raw linos and then he would carve them. So
nice.
That's basically what we did.
Yeah, that was a first for you.
It's the first collaboration at that time. I mean, I do etchings with Cicada Press, which is run by a great etcher called Michael Kempson, and so the work I do with him is also a collaboration to an extent too, because he contributes to some of the aspects of making the prints.
So for some context, we have met before. In another life, I was actually the graphic designer and print manager for all of Watters' catalogs.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. I've seen a bunch of your shows at Watters, very different to the exhibition at Rogue. And, I think the Rogue stuff has got this element of being far more politically motivated. Like, two of my favourite motifs of yours historically were the rearview mirror. I love how you come back with a rearview mirror.
Yeah, I know that one, yeah.
And birds on a wire. Just those simple things, that I would see and they would catch my attention. Was the Rogue show intentionally more political?
No, not really. I mean, I didn't even intend it to be that specifically.
Yeah.
But once for some reason, once we'd sort of done them all and looked at them, there was that theme going through them. But I mean, all my exhibitions have had some works that refer to climate change and to general human destruction and cruelty and greed and misbehaviour, which has always fascinated me, and religion and politics, obviously.
Yeah, there's always a good Jesus somewhere.
There's a bit of religious content. Yes.
Yeah. Which has crept into that last film, the film clip from the lead single. But I'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I didn't know Rogue was Diane's place until I went to your exhibition.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, Diane worked at Watters.
I know.
She looked after my stuff there for the last 20 odd years.
It's so lovely that Sydney is far poorer for having lost.
Yeah. No, all the artists and the people that the people that went there regularly were very disappointed, but unfortunately these things don't last forever.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's continuing in some form with Di doing her thing, which is
because
really
of
great.
Quite a few of the artists that with her were at Watters previously.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is there another show? Are you thinking about the next show yet? Is it?
No, not yet. No, I mean I'll probably have another reasonably large solo show next year sometime.
So I mentioned Rogue. I'd seen the name floating around. What I loved about this exhibition, I think we have Mambo to thank for this, is that King Street was plastered with posters.
Yeah, well, that was Glenn's idea
for the show. How cool is that? I mean,
I think Mambo might have helped funding that to some extent.
Yeah, then there needs to be more art shows that are actually appealing to younger people in that way, because posters on the streets for an art show is awesome.
Obviously that was a good idea.
Yeah, and it certainly got us there, and I didn't know we were going to be chatting. It was just like, okay, love Reg's work, we're going to check it out. Saw Die, I was like, what? Oh my God. And then the next thing I know was like talking about having a chat about it all, which was really quite serendipitous, I thought. Synonymous, Reg Mombassa and the Mambo legacy. Is there a short version of your working history?
Oh, my working. Well, I wanted to be an artist since I was a kid, really. I mean, when I was a child, it was more being a graphic artist, or because I liked comics, and we're sort of, we were a working class kind of family. We didn't have lots of paintings or prints on the wall, but my father had a scholarship to go to art school when he was 16 in Ireland, but his father died suddenly, and so he ended up being a carpenter. He didn't get to be a practicing artist, unfortunately. But so as a child, I thought, yeah, it'd be great to be a graphic artist or an illustrator or do comics or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then, once I got to high school, I got interested in painting and started copying paintings out of art books and taught myself to paint to some extent. And then when I started playing in bands, I started doing covers for the bands and posters and
some really iconic stuff there.
And then because of that, Dare Jennings had seen one of the covers I did. He was the guy that ran Mambo and founded it. And he asked me to do a cover of, I'd take a couple of elements of a cover, which was a couple of chooks running along beside a car, and he liked them, and I did them as a yardage pattern, and that sort of went well. So I just continued doing stuff, and Mambo, became steadily more popular. So that was just, a slightly accidental, side job that became something a little bit more, bit more time consuming and more of a commitment. But it was, but a good thing. Yeah, it was really good. For an artist, it was a great. It was good to get your images in front of a larger audience, but it also led me to do stuff that I wouldn't have necessarily done if I was, just painting for gallery shows. And
I think that's synchronicity, to be honest, Reg. When those things happen, you get the call.
Yeah, definitely. And the new sort of Mambo Surf Deluxe label are re-releasing a lot of my images from the classic period.
That's what I was going to ask. You mentioned yardage. There was yardage at the show. That's a really cool idea.
That was Glenn's idea again to do that.
Was that your stuff? No, that was your piece on there.
It was my piece, Well, it was, and it was his carving too. It was a Lino Cut. It was one of the Lino Cuts. So.
Yeah. And I think on someone's Instagram feed, someone had actually made some outfits out of the yardage that was for sale.
Yeah, that's right.
It was very cool to see. Yeah. But so that leads to the question about, so it's some of the classics that are being reissued? It's not new work that is...
No, I've done the odd new work in the last few years, and nothing quite recently, but they're re-releasing some of the classics and some of the, and David Mackay too is one of the earlier artists. Yeah. And hopefully they'll do some of the other previous artists, but they've got younger people doing new designs, which is great, Yeah.
I always gift somebody something when I interview them. I did notice that you were peeking at this before. You don't know who Celeste Mount Joy is? No. Yeah, cool. Okay, you're going to enjoy it. Melbourne artist.
Oh, okay.
When I prep for an interview, Wikipedia sucks because you just can't trust anything on it. So I do the deep dives into people's Instas, and I was like, why isn't there more work on your Insta? If I would love for you to be sharing more of your work on Instagram.
Oh, okay. No.
And then I thought of Celeste.
Unfortunately, I'm not very tech sort of savvy in a way. Obviously, my stuff is up on various things, and I've got Facebook, but and Instagram, but it's not something that.
Well, it's there. It's an active account.
I hardly ever look at these things.
Yeah, I know.
So I hardly know what's going on.
But it was. So Filthy Rat Bag is her handle, but Celeste Mount Joy is her name. She's an incredible Aussie, Melbourne-based artist. This is for you.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
check her out.
I have heard of her, actually.
Absolutely amazing. The new generation, in so many ways.
No, this looks great.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Reminds me a little bit of people like Shrigley.
Yeah.
Who I really like.
Yeah.
So how old is Celeste? She's relatively young.
early 30s.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, late 20s, early 30s. I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah, no, this looks good.
Relatively young. Should we talk about music for a sec?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I'll point this at the camera. So this by the time this interview comes out, this will be out in the world. I'm gonna take a stab at saying album number 5 for Dog Trumpet.
No, it's our 8th, I think.
Shit, sorry.
Yeah,
okay.
that's all right.
Amazing. So it was a stab.
And one of them was a double, so we've
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
pretty much done 9 albums
Very
since
cool. Very, very cool.
since 1991.
I've listened to it. I want to know a bit more about Clayton. Maybe you could tell me about Clayton.
Yeah.
But I do love the lead single, Fucking Idiots. I mentioned
idiots.
we're allowed to swear.
You can say that. So
Yeah.
you often can't say it.
No. The rhetorical question of what I pulled it from. What the fuck are you doing now? I do find myself asking that more and more.
Yeah, it's kind of it's almost written from the point of view of an alien intelligence looking at what's going on the earth and what humans are up to and thinking.
It's not a laughing matter.
What the fuck? No, it's not.
No.
It's getting more serious and more disturbing.
It is.
Day by day, month by month, unfortunately.
I'm in my mid-40s, so I'm wondering at my age if I'm noticing it more or if it's getting more. No one can seem to answer the question.
I mean, you look, every age people complain that things are going bad and things are getting worse.
Okay.
And there's all these, I mean, it's easy.
Old man yelling at a cloud.
Yeah. It's easy for me to be relatively pessimistic. My wife calls me a gloomy catastrophist.
Okay.
I've always kind of been like that since I was a child.
But the work is so full of light, in my opinion.
I could see the dangers of humans, human behaviour and activity.
Yeah. Well, the evidence is there.
The evidence is there. And I grew up in the shadow of the Second World War too, because my parents and all of my uncles were in the armed forces, and not the Australian, they were in the British Army.
Right.
And the culture of the time for kids was all about war. You played war games, you made weapons. So we played with that stuff as we were kids, and so I drew war pictures and battleships as a child. It's something that's interested me and worried me since I was quite young.
Well, I'm never going to ask the question, does art fix the problem? I know it's part of the solution, so that's never a question that I got to go into. But I did love the record.
Oh, good, thank you.
It was really enjoyable. Are there going to be some shows?
Oh, yeah, no, we've got it. We're launching it on the 25th of November at the Great Club in Marrickville.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then we'll be doing other shows around, we're going interstate to Tasmania.
Proper tour.
And but not in one go. We'll go and we'll go to Tasmania, do a few gigs, go to Melbourne, do some, go up to Brisbane and the Gold Coast. So we'll be getting around a bit.
Fun.
I mean, our last album was out a couple of years ago or so ago, and it was just the very start of the pandemic. So all our touring stopped then.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, exhibitions would have stopped.
Yeah, exhibitions stopped, or openings. Exhibitions kind of went on, but
like the online.
the actual openings weren't happening, which is a large part of it.
It really is. Yeah. The energy of a good opening is quite special, actually.
That's right.
Okay, well, look, thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. And if it's okay with you, it would be awesome if we could get a small tour of your working space.
Sure, yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, Reg.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
See ya.